This is your Thursday Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Plenty to get to today on this fine show. Phil Miller, Twins beat writer, will join me here in just a minute to talk Twins, coming off a big walk-off win over the Brewers on Wednesday and getting ready for a big series against the White Sox starting Thursday and heading into the All-Star break. Also check in with Ryan Dungey, motocross legend. I don't think it's overstating it to call him a motocross legend. And he has unretired. He's back competing for the first time in 5 years and will compete at his home track, Spring Creek, this weekend. So I caught up with him, chatted with him the other day, and I will play that recording for you as well in advance of that big race this weekend. A fact about the Kansas City Royals that I find startling and, it jumped out at me, and I will share that with you. And got to talk a little soccer because both Minnesota United and the Minnesota Aurora had important games on Wednesday. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. But first, what did I miss? Like I said, I'm going to start with the Twins and my interview with Phil Miller today just because that's so topical right now. I don't usually start with the guest for anybody who listens to this show fairly often, but I did talk to Phil after yesterday's Brewers game, the walk-off nature of it, the big series coming up this weekend. That feels like the biggest thing happening in Minnesota sports right now, so let's start there. I am happy to welcome back Phil Miller onto Daily Delivery. Covers the Twins, of course, for the Star Tribune. Phil, pretty exciting game Wednesday. The Twins beat the Brewers on a walk-off. Jose Miranda, 3-run home run. He's been quite good for them since the slow start he had when he first came up, kind of showing that he can hit here, and that of course came off of Josh Hader, the very good closer for the Brewers. Felt like an important game. I want to get into the game a little bit, spin it forward obviously to this big series against the White Sox going into the All-Star break, then maybe talk a little bit of draft, but kind of starting with the game itself. You were there. We are talking from you are there. I'm at home right now. You are still at Target Field as we are speaking on Wednesday evening. Impressions of this win. I mean, it's one of 162, but when you've kind of, had some losses here and there, you don't want to let things slip going into the break. So that's why it felt important to me.
It did. It's their sixth walk-off of the year, so it's easy to lump them all together and saying, the glass half empty is why don't they score a few more runs earlier in the game so they don't have such close games all the time. But excuse me, today's was pretty impressive because of who the pitcher was. Josh Hader, who just made his fourth All-Star team, who leads the major leagues in saves, who has one blown save opportunity all year. This was not a save opportunity today. It was a 1-1 tie in the ninth inning, but it's the first time in Hader's career that he's ever faced three or more batters and not recorded an out. So, that's quite an amazing accomplishment for Jorge Polanco, who drew a controversial walk, and Max Kepler, who lined a soft single. That must have been so frustrating for Hader. He could have easily had retired the first two guys. And then after missing with the slider, he just left one front and center for Jose Miranda, who hit it off the face of the upper deck. This one felt a little different than some of the other ones. It's different than coming back against the Orioles or the White Sox or the Tigers. This is a really good team, and Hader is as good as they come. And for a rookie to do it, a rookie who was terrible in his first 3 weeks after being called up, it felt like a step forward for him.
Based on how bad Miranda was in those first few weeks, I was surprised he stayed up, but they must have either needed him to stay up or saw something in him that they thought he's going to hit.
Well, he didn't really stay up. They decided to send him back down. They optioned him to St. Paul. And about 6 hours later, maybe not even that long, called and said, no. I wish I remembered who got hurt, but they maybe it was it Miguel? No, this was after Miguel, but they had an injury and called him right back. And without that, it's entirely possible that he might still be at AAA. And instead, he returned, and I don't know if that flipped a switch or something. Maybe you feel like you got nothing to lose and just kind of let it go. But he has been a different hitter. He's a confident hitter. He is no longer overwhelmed by this level, and that is, that's pretty encouraging to see.
Joe Ryan hasn't been overwhelmed by this level from the moment he took the mound last September, I believe it was, when the call-ups came. Maybe it was August. I can't remember when he came up exactly last year, but he's been quite good, was again good. I'm sure they'd like to see some of these guys work a little deeper into games sometimes, although he still had some pitches to throw, it looked like. They just took him out of this one. Not
only does he had more pitches, I mean, he only threw 44 pitches in the first 3 innings. He was in pretty good shape. He only threw 78 for the game, I think, the third fewest of the season. I was a little surprised. They have the All-Star break coming up. He will not pitch again for 10 days. I would assume he'll get the first game back on July 23rd, I think, in Detroit. That's a long way off. I guess they were protecting him, but it was a 1-1 game. It was a surprising move on Rocco's part. He said they really wanted to get Caleb Thielbar, and they were convinced he matched up well against the Brewers lineup. So they gave Joe Ryan. I think they are really intent on giving some of their starters a break in this month. Chris Archer went on the injured list, even though he was only kind of sort of injured. I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Bundy and Sonny Gray might skip a start or something like that going forward. I think, which is probably not going to be popular with fans. Watch these guys. You're right, pitch 4 or 5 innings to start.
Let's move forward a little bit here to the White Sox series. And, we've been kind of waiting for Chicago to make a move, any kind of move all year. And, they're still in a, semi-threatening position. Nobody's nipping at the Twins' heels really, but nobody's running away with this thing either. And, they really only like one 9-2 stretch away from being, right in the race, and probably seem like they are more of a threat still than Cleveland, even though Cleveland's been ahead of them in the standings here for a while. I mean, as we think about importance, the win Wednesday felt important. This series feels particularly important just as a tone setter going into the break. It's the White Sox. You're going to see them again some more. It's at home, and you don't want to give away games. I know they've played a ton of games. They're probably tired. They're probably like ready. Most of these guys who are not playing in the All-Star game are ready for a break, but this feels like a pretty impactful series that we could, either way, we might look back on at some point and say, that was that kind of told the story of the season.
Well, to put it bluntly, I think they have to approach it as this is the week we put the White Sox away. They took 2 out of 3 and let one game slip away in Chicago last week. That could have easily been a sweep. The White Sox are still 3 games below 500, 2 games below 500, with the same lineup that won the division last year, with pitching staff that was supposed to be really good, but Lucas Giolito has not come back strong. This is a pitching staff that's relying on Johnny Cueto, of all people. It's hard to explain what has happened to the White Sox. I do think that they are a bigger threat to pull it together than Cleveland. But 4 games at home, The crowds are starting to get bigger here. This is a real chance for the Twins. If they had taken care of that last game in Chicago last week, they'd have a half a dozen game lead now, and could really be looking to put it away. I would guess that is the philosophy in the clubhouse this week. This is a chance to end the race, make the second half a lot easier.
It would indeed. Still feels like it's going to be plenty of baseball after the break, and as good as they have to feel about the way the first half has gone, especially relative to external expectations, but they're probably on pace for 90 wins or close to 90 wins at this point. And I don't think people had that penciled in after last year's 73 and 89 season. But this is still a team with some holes, even though I think they've been, relatively consistent in terms of there's not a glaring weakness, maybe outside of some ill-timed bullpen meltdowns, but the bullpen ERA overall is okay. But as they kind of approach the second half and even think about, hey, how do we position ourselves not just to get to the playoffs, but win? You got to feel like the bullpen is something that still needs to be addressed, perhaps before the trade deadline.
Yeah, and they're going to have to decide if they're going to tinker or if they are going to make a real move, and whether or not, which is necessary. I think the fans would agree after watching 5 blown leads to the Guardians that is it 4 or 5 that something needs to be done drastic. I will say, just between us, Mike, it occurred to me today that with Spencer Steer tearing it up at AAA, with Miguel Sano coming back in some form or another at the end of the month, I wonder what you could get for Jose Miranda. And would the Twins ever consider doing something like that?
Interesting.
It's a position of, or it's not a position of strength yet, but it projects to be a position of strength. I don't know that they would do it, but Miranda is the kind of guy that could really interest some teams that are rebuilding. So, but that's just total speculation on my part, and let's just keep it between us. But, I think,
me and the thousands of podcast listeners.
Well, ask them not to say anything.
Okay.
I do think that they are planning to. You keep hearing about all their options at AAA and all the free agents they're bringing in. I do think they are planning to make a move at the end of the month, either for another starter, in which case Josh Winder becomes another bullpen piece, or more likely a closer from another team. Rocco also said today that Kenta Maeda, if he comes back in September, 50-50, I guess right now, he would be a bullpen guy. And Kenta agrees with that. So I think, I don't know what you can expect from that, but they are thinking a lot about the bullpen.
Final thought for you: before any of these guys were bona fide prospects, they were draft picks. Twins have the number 8 pick in the draft on Sunday. Highest pick they've had, I believe, since Royce Lewis in 2017, owing to their poor season a year ago. As you think about, I'm not going to ask you for like who they're going to pick, hot takes there, because that, the baseball draft is probably the biggest crapshoot of them all. But is there an organizational philosophy need that we should kind of watch as they kind of approach this number 8 pick?
Well, there's not going to be much top end pitching. There's not any standouts. There's not any Steven Strasburgs at the top of the draft. I don't think there'll be any pitching going. I don't think there'll be any pitching going before the Twins pick. So, in one sense, they may have the pick of all pitches available. We'll see if that's the way they go. Having really gone outside their comfort zone last year to take high school pitcher Chase Petty, and then trading him this year to some scouts. I think it upset a few scouts. I've heard that you work and watch a kid all spring, and they draft him, and then they trade him. Anyway, I do think that they are likely to draft a pitcher, we'll see. As I say this, I'm watching 4 to 6 prospects working out here in Target Field after today's game. There's a couple of dozen scouts around watching the kid on the mound pitch right now. We should go find out who that is and see if they're going to take him.
Well, we'll let you do some sleuthing. You can update me later if you come up with a name. Good stuff, Phil. I'm sure you're covering some of the games in the next 4 days, and after that, please enjoy the All-Star game. I believe you're going. Yes.
Yes. Byron, Buxton, Louis Arise, and me. What a
big
trio.
three. The big three, baby.
That's right.
All right, Phil. Well, appreciate it. Take care. All right.
Okay, Mike. Good talking.
Now, Phil and I obviously got into a little bit of what the Twins could be looking for at the trade deadline. It's got to. I would think, if you look at the makeup of this year's Twins team, I don't think, Thad Levine and Derek Falvey were all in on the season. Certainly the Carlos Correa signing gave this season an air of legitimacy is the wrong word, but it gave the season an air of, hey, we're not just kind of punting on 2022. Signing him indicated they're trying to win to a certain degree, but I never got the feeling from this season that they were, all in on trying to win a World Series. I don't think you trade Taylor Rogers, your best relief pitcher right before the season starts, even if you get back what you think is value in Chris Paddock, who almost immediately got injured, and Emilio Pagan, who has been better lately, but has been a part of a lot of bullpen meltdowns. Even if you think you got reasonable value in that deal, Taylor Rogers is the kind of guy who can be a difference maker in a postseason or in a pennant push. So I don't think you make that trade if you were all in on the season. That said, the Twins are in first place. Figure to be in first place going into the All-Star break. Figure to, be buyers at the deadline based on what their season looks like right now. And there could be some available relievers that look kind of intriguing to them. Saw a list the other day. A couple names jumped out at me. The biggest one that I think has been, linked to them or thought to be maybe a good fit for them is David Robertson from the Cubs. 37 years old, so kind of a rental, but having a very good season with the Cubs. He was good with the Rays last season. Kind of seems like he has returned from all of his elbow problems that kept him out of almost the entirety of his contract with the Phillies in 2019, 2020. So that's maybe one of the biggest names to watch on my list for what the Twins could be looking for. Now, other interesting names, guys got like Gregory Soto from the Tigers. Interesting thing about him is he is under team control until after the 2025 season. So lots of years of team control with Soto, and he is a left-handed pitcher, which they could really use. Now, that would be an interdivision trade. Not sure what the Tigers would be up to there, and that would take a lot to get him because of all of that team control. But that would be an interesting name to go after as well. So couple names to think about, couple guys to wonder. I'm sure the lists will grow as the trade deadline gets a little bit closer, as we kind of sort out what teams are where, who is truly fallen out of contention. And you got to remember, like 6 teams from each league, 3 wild cards make the playoffs now. So a little bit trickier in terms of trying to see, who might be out of it and who isn't. But, I would be stunned if the Twins don't add something at the deadline, even if they feel like, like Phil said, that they might get Kenta Maeda to help out on the bullpen, even if they get some, get some guys coming up from the minors that they think could help. At least one more veteran, experienced arm could really give them something more that they need, and that's something more that they have been lacking. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I want to bring in Ryan Dungey now. Minnesota native, back racing at his home track, Spring Creek Park in Millville, Minnesota this weekend for the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championships. The big events coming Saturday in those races. And I've talked to Ryan several times over the years for various stories, but haven't talked to him for a while because he hasn't been racing for 5 years, but now at age 32, getting back into the mix. So I caught up with him the other day in advance of those races, and here we are now. All right, I'm happy to be joined today by motocross legend. Is that all right to call you that? Ryan Dungey, out of retirement, Ryan, and back into racing. Congrats on that. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Like you said, I was retired there for about 5 years, but got the opportunity to go back, and it's been fun and just been a good balance in life and enjoying the heck out of it.
So catch folks up, Ryan. What have you been up to you retired essentially in 2017 from the world of motocross, which is 5 years ago. What have you been up to since then?
Yeah, it's been good. We, shortly after retiring, me and my wife came back here to Minnesota. We were in Florida there for a while. And since then, we've had 2 kids. We got a little girl and a boy. And, so we're raising them. And so life's a little bit more busy, which is awesome. And, got a couple other things in the works and just, started a company and started a foundation. And, yeah, just keeping busy, man.
So, after 5 years, why come back? Why get back into this racing business?
For a couple of years there, once I retired and we had kids and I kind of settled down a little bit, like things kind of slowed down a little bit, and I was kind of energized to do it again. I kind of seeked out opportunities, none really came about. And, this year I happened to be doing some testing with the team KTM, who I raced for all those years. And some opportunity opened up, and a couple of guys were going to be sitting out for the motocross series, and so there was a few spots, and I was like, well, so we chatted about it and talked about going back racing. And for me, I still had the excitement to do it. It'd been a while. I was looking forward to get back to it, and having another challenge, something I wanted to pursue. So it just kind of all came together, and happened to be going good on the dirt bike, and the body was good, fitness was good, and just being able to do it from Minnesota. I think that was another thing that was really helped out the situation. Is it's not like I had to uproot my family, move back to Florida. I can still do it out of Minnesota here. So it was a good balance, and that was important because with the 2 kids, they're I think 5 months and 3 years old, so they're very young, and so not uprooting that system. And it's been good.
Now, you're the 3rd winningest rider in the history of pro motocross, 46 wins, 2nd most podiums with 91 for pro motocross championships. That said, when you take a long break, I got to imagine it's how much. I mean, did you ride much during that layoff, and what are the biggest challenges of getting back into competitive racing?
Yeah, I did ride, but not very much, honestly. It, the wintertime here, slows things down, and you don't get to ride at all during those months. And so very slim on the riding. But the biggest challenge for me in getting back is just getting back up to, I think the speed is there. It's just more the endurance part. I feel like I can go the distance pretty well, but being able to get to that next level, and, over 5 years, it's not like I was training, I was working out and doing stuff outside of riding dirt bikes, but it was like that high end intensity, when you're in the last, 5 to 10 minutes of the moto. I think I just especially the second moto, it's motocross is just physically demanding, and so I can do everything I can, and I'm doing everything I can, but I got to also be patient with myself and hey, it's been 5-6 years, so just let it come. But the good thing is every single weekend it's getting better, and we're getting closer, and the body's adapting more and more. So it's just going to take time, and So I'd say that's probably the toughest point is just the body getting back to that high level where all those other guys are at.
Couple final things for you, Ryan. Obviously, the big reason we're talking right now is you will be competing this weekend at a very familiar track, Spring Creek. That's your kind of your home race, right? And you won there your most recent time in 2015. How much are you looking forward to being back there?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think every year we get to come back here. It's special because, like you said, it is hometown, but also it honestly is one of the best tracks on the circuit. It's ranked there at the very top. And so, the dirt's good. It's rough. It's got elevation. It's usually pretty warm. Just a good facility, good people, a good group of people. And then the fans and just the friends and family and everybody going to come out and just super supportive. Everybody's been awesome. So just good to also see all that as well. And yeah, we'll try to put in a good performance and have some fun and see what we can do.
Last thing for you, now that you're back, how long do you want to stay?
Yeah, that's the question. We started outdoors, and now quickly talks have developed for racing Supercross next year, and so definitely got some figuring out some stuff to do. But it's cool to I got to say it's nice to see the doors opening up, and you got some stuff to figure out though for sure.
Awesome, Ryan. Well, hey, best of luck this weekend. Great catching up with you, and I'm sure we'll talk again down the road.
Awesome. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
You bet. Take care.
Always fun to catch up with people after you haven't talked to them for a while. Cool to hear he's got a couple of kids now. I have at least one more, maybe two more than the last time I talked to him. I have a grand total of 3. I believe I've shared that before. So, that just a cool guy. I hope he does well. I hope he finds some success coming out of retirement and gets to do what he loves even more. Let's transition to soccer at the end of the show here. Minnesota United 1-1 draw with Sporting KC, but their unbeaten streak 4 now. Maybe a disappointment because Kansas City not having the greatest season, not great on the road, and equalized in the second half. The Loons had been going pretty well lately on offense. They'd scored 3 goals in each of their last 3 matches and winning all 3. This one a 1-1 draw, and the only goal for them coming on an own goal by Sporting KC in the first half. But you know what? Hey, sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes you just have to accept an outcome, and in this case, I guess they will. I guess they will take it. I guess they will. They will. Maybe lament a little bit of missed opportunities, but still a 4-game unbeaten streak is a decent place for them to be. It's gotten them into a better spot in the standings where they're now, tied for 5th and within 2 points of 3rd, and making a push to be in the conversation for a home playoff match to start the playoffs. 7 teams make it. So you got to be in the top 4 to get that home playoff match to start things. So things looking much better for the Loons, and good stuff coming up. Of course, they play Everton in a friendly next week. Hoping to have manager Adrian Heath on sometime this week to talk about that. No, actually, that would be on Friday's show, tomorrow's show, if it's going to happen, and go from there. So should be a fun stretch for the Loons, including that and the All-Star game coming up a few weeks later. Minnesota Aurora, a huge win in the playoffs. They advance by rallying past the Indy 11. They win that game 2-1 in the USLW League playoffs. They go to the semifinals now. They are unbeaten this year, 12-0-1. Indy 11 was 10-1-2. So obviously 2 very good teams in this game. 6,200 fans announced for that game. Just a huge success story any way you look at it in this sport right now. So good work by Aurora. Good, just a great season they're having, and it continues now into the league semifinals. They play Sunday at 5 p.m. against McLean Soccer. Let's finish with the cooler. This caught my eye. ESPN story about the Kansas City Royals who are traveling to play the Blue Jays in a series before the All-Star break. 10 Royals players will miss that series because they are not vaccinated for COVID-19. Again, that's the rules for entering Canada and being able to play in that series, is that you must be vaccinated. Now, the story says the previous most players a team had missed in a Toronto series was 4. And then and that was the Twins. Might have been another team. The Twins had 4 players missing when they went to Toronto. Max Kepler, Emilio Pagan, Caleb Thielbar, and Trevor McGill were all on the restricted list when the Twins played in Toronto. That was back in early June, and the Twins managed to win 2 out of 3 in that series still. Royals have 10 players missing. That's like almost, not quite half of your active regular roster. That's just, it's for one team to have that many unvaccinated players just kind of blew my mind. And it's, it's just, it's probably more of a fluke than anything. I don't know if it was like one, it's like some grand team decision or anything like that, but it just caught my attention that they have 10 unvaccinated players and will be without so many of them heading into that series. That'll do it for me today. Good stuff coming up the rest of the week. Next week will be a little bit of a kind of a mix and match. I'm taking a couple days off, trying to burn off some vacation time in the next few weeks before things really, really ramp up again. So there'll be shows next week, I believe, on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm going to try to take Tuesday and Wednesday off next week. So adjust your listening habits accordingly. Thanks for listening today. Back at it again tomorrow.